The next round of the AI race? It might not come down to who's got the biggest model, or the biggest data center, or the most expensive stack of GPUs sitting in some warehouse in Texas. It might come down to the license file. Apache 2.0, MIT, GPL. Those custom community licenses everyone's writing now. Open weights, open source, source available, free for research, free for commercial use. Sounds like developer paperwork. In 2026, it's geopolitics. Those words decide who gets to copy a model, modify it, sell it, defend it, weaponize it. And that is exactly why Chinese free models, Western open weight drops, and old dusty software licenses are suddenly sitting right in the middle of the global AI fight. For a long time, open source meant something pretty clear. You released your source code under a license. People could use it, study it, change it, share it. The idea was never just free, no price tag. It was freedom to crack the thing open and see how it worked. That matters in AI. Because the machine isn't just code anymore. A modern model is code, training data, the filtering on that data, the weights, the evaluation methods, the alignment recipes, the inference tools, the deployment stack. Hand someone the final weights, and you've handed them a powerful engine. You have not handed them the factory. This is where the language gets slippery. A lot of AI companies say open source, when what they actually mean is open weights. And look, open weights are still useful. You can download them, run them on your own machine, fine-tune them, quantize them, build a product without piping every prompt through somebody else's cloud. But under the newer open source initiative definition for AI, real open source means giving people enough to actually understand the system, change it, rebuild it. The data, the code, the weights, the settings. By that stricter standard, a lot of famous open models aren't open source. They're strategically open. Apache 2.0 is one of the most important licenses in this whole fight because it's permissive and it's business-friendly. Use it, modify it, sell it, distribute it. Just keep the notices and the license terms in place. The part companies really love is the patent grant. Contributors aren't just handing over copyright permission, they're also granting certain patent rights tied to their work. In plain English, Apache 2.0 is a green light. That's why a model under Apache feels very different from a model with a custom license stuffed full of usage limits. MIT is even simpler. Short, permissive. Developers love it. It basically says, use this, copy it, sell it, modify it. Just keep the copyright notice and don't sue me when it breaks. Startups love MIT because there's almost no baggage. But it doesn't spell out patent protection the way Apache does. That doesn't make MIT bad. It makes MIT clean and fast. Apache is clean, fast, and a lot more deliberate about patents. In regular software, that gap is small. In AI, where models brush up against patented training tricks, inference systems, chips, enterprise stacks, that patent language stops being a footnote. Then there's copyleft, the GPL family. Copyleft says, sure, use it, modify it, but if you ship something built on top, that something has to stay under the same license. It protects openness downstream, stops a company from grabbing a community project, polishing it in private, and slamming the door behind them. Permissive licenses like MIT and Apache go for maximum spread. Copyleft goes for long-term openness. Neither one is automatically better. They're protecting different things. And that's the trade-off underneath the whole AI fight. Maximum spread, maximum control, maximum openness, maximum money. Pick. AI complicates every single one of those choices because a model release isn't really a software release. The weights might be downloadable while the training data stays hidden. The inference code might be public while the reinforcement learning pipeline is locked in a vault. The license might allow commercial use, but ban you from using outputs to train a competing model. Free for the small developer, special permission required if you're a big company. These aren't open source licenses in the classic sense. They're market-shaping licenses, built to spread adoption and protect leverage at the same time. That's why the Chinese strategy has been so disruptive. DeepSeek, Qwen, Kimi, those labs proved a model doesn't have to sit behind an expensive API to move the market. DeepSeek's R1 moment already showed the world a free or low-cost reasoning model could put real pressure on the economics of closed Western AI. Then DeepSeek V4 pushed it further. A 1 million token context window, a massive mixture of expert setup, and claims of serious reasoning and coding chops. Reuters also reported V4 was adapted for Huawei Ascend chips. That last detail is the tell. China isn't just chasing American models, It's trying to walk away from American hardware. Alibaba's Qwen play has been just as big. Qwen 3 Coder shipped as a major agentic coding model. The Qwen team describes it as a 480 billion parameter mixture of expert system with 35 billion active parameters and long context support. Reuters called it Alibaba's most advanced open-source coding model so far. And coding models aren't chatbots. They're productivity engines. They write code. They run tools. They poke through repos. They automate browsers. A strong, free coding model leaks into startups, universities, laptops, small shops, anyone who can't stomach frontier API bills. This is where open licensing turns into a weapon. Get a Chinese model that's good enough, cheap enough, and permissive enough, and it stops being a product. It becomes infrastructure. Developers build around it. Tooling supports it. Fine-tunes pile up. Quantized versions run on regular hardware. Cloud providers host it. Tutorials teach it. That's an ecosystem. Same force that made Linux powerful. Nobody ever bought Linux from one company, and somehow it became the backbone of servers, cloud, Android, embedded systems, you name it. Open adoption turned into strategic gravity. The United States noticed. OpenAI's GPT-oss release was a signal that even the most closed labs feel the heat. They put out open-weight models under Apache 2.0, leaning hard into permissive commercial use and lower patent risk. That wasn't charity. That was positioning. If DeepSeek and Qwen are training a whole generation of developers to expect capable free models, Western labs can't just sit there with premium closed APIs and assume they own the stack. They need a free layer too. They need developers building on their ground before somebody else becomes the default. But there's tension here. Open models accelerate innovation. They also accelerate diffusion. A permissive model can help a solo founder, a university lab, a hospital, a small business. It can also help competitors, scammers, propaganda shops, military programs. Closed companies argue keeping the frontier behind an API lets them monitor what's happening and put safety controls on it. Open advocates argue that letting a handful of companies own the future of intelligence is the bigger risk. Both sides have a point. The real question isn't whether OpenAI is risk-free. It's whether closed AI is actually safer or just easier to bill for. The IP layer is messy too because training data lives in a legal gray zone. Software licenses cover code. Copyright covers creative work. Patents cover inventions. Trademarks cover brands. Trade secrets cover whatever a company decides to keep behind glass. An AI model can touch every single one of those at once. A company can open the weights and treat the data as a trade secret. Open the code, lock the brand with trademark. Allow commercial use but block certain competitors. Lean on copyrighted internet data while refusing to say what's in the dataset. Open in AI isn't a switch. It's a bundle of rights and silences. For builders, the takeaway is boring but real. Read the license before you build. Apache 2.0 generally gives you strong commercial room and patent comfort. MIT is permissive, simple, but thinner on patents. GPL-style copyleft is powerful if you want improvements to stay open, but it scares off a lot of commercial adopters. And those custom model licenses? They look free right up until you hit the clause that blocks competitive training, or high-scale deployment, or resale, or whatever else the lawyers slipped in. Free download doesn't mean free to build a company on. Open weights doesn't mean open source. Research use doesn't mean commercial use. The AI race is splitting into layers now. At the top, the biggest closed models fight for frontier performance, enterprise contracts, and national advantage. Below that, open weight and permissively licensed models fight to become the default substrate developers build on. Below that, the chips and the infrastructure decide who can even train and serve these things without getting choked by export controls. China's free models aren't a gift. They're a way to spread Chinese AI standards, hammer American pricing power, and build momentum around domestic chips. And Western open releases aren't generosity. They're a defensive move to keep developers inside Western ecosystems. So the real story isn't open source good, closed source bad. The real story is that openness has become a strategy, sometimes philosophical, sometimes commercial, sometimes geopolitical. Apache and MIT licenses look boring on paper, right up until you realize they decide whether a model ends up a product, a platform, or a global standard. The winner of the AI race may not be the company that hides everything, may not be the country that gives everything away. It might just be the player who knows exactly what to open, exactly what to protect, and exactly how to turn freedom into leverage. Stay sharp, Jane Sterling, Sterling Intelligence.